BBC Radio 4 Extra.
It's 1 o'clock and we've an hour of crime and thrillers now. We'll continue Paul Temple's case of the Jonathan mystery in a moment. A vital clue has come to light, but does one of the suspects know about it already? And then Toby Jones will find himself plunged deeper into the mystery of his missing boss as the rookie detective Charles Unwin. The Manual of Detection is at 1:30. First here on Radio 4 Extra, allow me to hand you over to one of my predecessors.
From London, we present the Francis Durbridge serial Paul Temple and the Jonathan Mystery.
In our house, when I was growing up, Saturday lunchtimes usually meant the news headlines on Radio 2. Roy Hudd's series ran for more than 2.5 decades, although it actually started out on Wednesday evenings, 40 years ago this week. It was described in the Radio Times back then as an up-to-the-minute comedy show about what's happening now. It was indeed recorded close to transmission and featured stacks of writers. This episode, from March 1976, has been dug up from the archive, and it does contain some humour based on certain social attitudes of the time. It also starts by referencing a significant political event from that month.
You're listening to BBC Radio 4 Extra.
Next, according to his diary, Kenneth Williams wrote of this episode of Stop Messing About. 12th of May, 1969. John Simmons, producer, said, "Our audience is changing. There are more youngsters than before. I'm afraid it's developing into a Kenneth Williams cult show, and that isn't what I wanted." Well, Kenneth wasn't best pleased. As he used to say, he was a cult, one of the biggest cults in the business. And this is the end of my words. There are no more. Till next week, at least. Neil has plenty of words, though, and those that are safe enough to use here are coming up. Have a great rest of the weekend, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Wes. Good morning. It's Neil Sleat here with a bulging barrel full of drama, entertainment and comedy on the oh-so-digital Radio 4 Extra.
This is
BBC Radio 4
Extra.
It's 6 o'clock and we've a squad of football dramas. Des sets out to buy a birthday present for his football-mad granddaughter, but on the way he has a strange encounter in the first of our football stories for girls next. And two pious sisters are surprised at events when they visit the home of a dying man in a short story, Sitting with the Dead, at 7:15.
Next week at this time, the Comedy Economics Hybrid Show is back, using its jokenomics lens to make money funny. Yes, it's the start of a new series of Simon Evans Goes to Market. While tomorrow in this slot, we meet David Sedaris, the master of the sardonic social critique. The globe-trotting, trash-picking storyteller returns with more words of wit and wisdom. That's it from me. Luke will be your guide through the rest of Thursday here on 4 Extra, so thank you for your company, and I'll see you soon.
Debbie, thank you very much. Welcome to Radio 4 Extra, the digital station for comedy, drama and entertainment. Where are we? Nearing the end of the month, Thursday, April the 25th. This is Luke Tuddenham.
This is
BBC Radio 4
Extra.
Does anyone have a question?
6 o'clock the time. In a moment, the playwright spy Christopher Marlowe is on the case of a double crossing in the perplexed plot of The Perilous Plague. Then at past, the writer Irma Kurtz travels to Paris and Madrid to find out more about the cities at the time of the blind Spanish composer Rodrigo, when he composed his famous Concerto de Aranjuez. She talks to Rodrigo's only daughter and considers the music's lasting impact. The Sound of Magnolias is in half an hour.
David Miles here, bringing you some vintage announcing and vintage comedy for the next hour. In a moment, Father Ben questions his parenting skills and changes his approach after he flunks a magazine questionnaire in Life with the Lions. Then Harry Worth will blunder his way through another catalogue of mishaps, today prompted by the postman who delivers a menacing letter, except that the biggest threat to Harry's well-being is Harry himself. That's in half an hour. And now, starring the real-life American family, Ben Lyon and his wife Bibi Daniels and their children Richard and Barbara, we've another episode in Life with the Lions, one of the BBC's most popular radio sitcoms between 1950 and 1961. Today, Richard dons a rather garish shirt. Just as well this is radio. And Ben is seeking to generate some discipline in the family home while dipping into some child psychology.
This is BBC Radio 4 Extra.
Hello, it's 6 o'clock and it's Alan Smith with you here on 4 Extra, where we've a perfect mix for Hercule Poirot, a murder, a train and some very valuable jewels. That's in the next part of The Mystery of the Blue Train in half an hour. And remember, we've plenty of drama, from gripping adventures to biographical epics to light-hearted comedies, if you take a look at the Radio 4 Extra lineup on the BBC Sounds app. Happy listening. So let's start with some drama from 1966 in Destination Fire, which is centred on the stories of Quentin Barnaby, a fire investigator. It opens with some fabulous music and an equally fabulous announcer. Have a listen to this.
On DAB digital radio, on digital TV and online. BBC Radio 7.
Right then, we're just at 3 o'clock now here on Radio 7. My name is Penny Haslam, and in just a moment we've got the dramatisation of a classic novel by Emily Bronte with Wuthering Heights. And then to lighten the load, we head to the microcosm state of Little Blighty on the Down for more late 80s politics. And then at 4:30 we fly the flag in a British embassy in Eastern Europe, the one that does a reindeer day.
BBC Radio 4 Extra.
Hello there, I'm Joanna Pinnock. For Sunday morning breakfast at 8, it's classic comedy next with Larks and Lummies Akimbo as we catch up with Gert and Daisy alias Elsie and Doris Waters and a young Ronnie Barker over at Floggett's in 30 minutes. And in complete contrast, some seriously terrifying drama later this afternoon by Agatha Christie, without Poirot or Miss Marple this time, but with plenty of supernatural goings on. Endless Night is at 1:30. Well, somebody's about to thump out a slightly different version of the usual theme tune on the old xylophone now, as we join Jimmy, Dick, June and co back in 1958, celebrating 10 glorious years.
Hello, this is Jim Lee and we're live on 4 Extra. We don't think that's ever happened before. We're live because this next hour is a bit special.
BBC Radio 4 Extra.
It's 2 minutes past 5 and it's special because at 5:33 exactly, 4 Extra will be joining a global simulcast for that Damon Albarn tribute you've probably heard about. Radio Reunited, celebrating the 90th anniversary of BBC Radio. Until then, there's Ring Around the Bath, and after the special programme, there's our regular Wednesday tea time date with Alan Davis. So that means we'll be with Natalie for the Seventh Dimension a few minutes later than normal. This is BBC Radio 4 Extra on digital and on BBC Sounds. I'm Jim Lee, and in a change to our published schedule, we're going to settle down for a crime omnibus. That's 2.5 hours of an absorbing thriller to enjoy right now. From vintage episodes of Paul Temple from the 1940s to 1970s detective thrillers and Agatha Christie classics, they're all here on 4 Extra.
It's 11 o'clock and I'm Chris Berrow. Soon we'll hear stories from around the world in the Moth Radio Hour. And that's followed by one of Sir David Attenborough's life stories. How do fireflies generate their own light? We'll find out at around 11:50. Apparently, though, different groups have their own special signals. Then, as we mark the 70th anniversary of the death of Will Hay, we'll hear him playing the jocular headmaster, Dr. Muffin.
Hello, I'm Alex Riley, and you're listening to Radio 4 Extra on digital and BBC Sounds.
This is BBC Radio 4 Extra.
And we're about to embark on our Crime and Thrillers Hour, beginning with our thriller about power and uranium smuggling. Oh yes, some mother's son. That's followed by Bolt, our horse racing whodunit by the one and only Dick Francis, dramatised by John Ash. And today, Henri threatens the princess's husband.
I'm Kathy Clugston. We'll have some real comedy now.
BBC Radio 4 Extra.
7 o'clock, and it's classic comedy for this hour, including a possible separation for Steptoe and Son. Is Harold off to pastures new? We'll find out next. Jim Hacker learns it takes two to Quango in Yes Minister in half an hour. And then there's a cracking lineup later for tonight's comedy club. Please elaborate, I hear you say. Well, I will, but I've only got a few seconds before the music runs out. We've got the new series of Meet David Sedaris, Old Harry's Game, The Mary Whitehouse Experience from 10. So now, from July 1967, so not very PC, from Oil Drum Lane to the far corners of the world, Harold is off without his father. How to break the news gently. Tact and delicacy is what this situation needs. Oh dear.
BBC Radio 4 Extra.
It's 8 o'clock, this is Susan Ray. Good morning. I hope the toast is to your liking, neither too light nor too dark, too crisp nor too wangy. In this hour of comedy, I invite you to meet the Huggets if you haven't already done so, which begs the question, where have you been for the last 50 or more years? In half an hour, toilet humour with the men from the Ministry. And in the Comedy Club tonight, from 10, Arthur Smith. Good things include Linda Smith and Craig Brown. Now, from 1957, another episode of the hugely successful Meet the Huggets with Jack Warner. Self-contained stories that examine the human condition through post-Second World War eyes. The producer was Jakes Brown of Round the Horn fame. This episode, No Fear, is all about the nature and perception of fear. Young Bobby asks his mother whether his father had ever fought over her. The lad wishes that he'd been born centuries previously, during Arthurian times, when life was more dramatic and romantic. Apart from the elementary plumbing of those primitive times, I would suggest.
This is BBC Radio 4
Extra.
You are going on a ride.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, the 3rd of November. I'm Amanda Litherland, and we've an hour of crime drama now. We start with a classic Sherlock Holmes story. Then that's followed by a medieval thriller, where a detective monk is caught in a civil war between the English and the Welsh. Dead Man's Ransom is at 6:30. And we've more drama later with John Fowles' cult novel The Magus, starring Charles Dance. That's this morning at 10.
You are entering the 7th dimension of BBC Radio 4 Extra.
Oh, hello, Toby Hadoke here. Just imagine the most obscure DVD extra you can find in human form, wearing a hat, a second-hand jacket, and an aura of unfulfilled potential, and that's a pretty accurate picture. Tonight I'm asking, what's in your food, and can anything be put in the water? You'd have to be paranoid to worry about everything you put in your mouth. Unfortunately for number 6, they don't come more paranoid than him, so everything is off the menu, apart from the prisoner himself. It's the 7th dimension. We haven't had a change of mind. We're still the home of classic sci-fi and horror.
Oh, come on, we all know Vincent will be back in the seventh dimension one day. I'm starting the countdown now. Oh yes, he'll be back. So, who would dare to replace Vincent? The Man in Black is returning next week in Fear on 4, and he introduces a tale of snowy terror, the Snowman Killing.
You're leaving the seventh dimension. Sci-fi and fantasy, 6 p.m. and midnight, 7 nights a week.
Robert Heinlein's classic tale of human immortality, Methuselah's Children, continues tomorrow. And following that, a short history of Gothic continues, with a vampire story with a twist by Angela Carter, the Lady of the House of Love. This is me, Nick Briggs, remembering the price of fear. Bye.
The digital radio station for comedy and drama. BBC Radio 7.
You're leaving the seventh dimension.
That's it for today. I've been Andrew O'Neill. Join me tomorrow for that botanical horror story and for our dark tale from the Man in Black. Sleep well, if you dare.
Hello. You're listening to The Comedy Club.
Is that right?
Well, what an excitement we've got in the Comedy Club tonight. Standing before me, his tail in the air, here he is, the great Basil Brush.
Hello, 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 hello.
Hello, listeners of the radio.
This is The Comedy Club. Here on the radio.
It's a lot like Back to the Future.
Crikey.
It's the Comedy Club on BBC Radio 4 Extra. I'm John Holmes, and now I hand you over to the very excellent Kiri Pritchard-McLean, who presents a scrapbook of topical stand-up and sketches written by you. If you could be bothered to submit something, I mean, you should submit something. You know, if you want to, the details are on the old BBC Radio 4 Extra website. If you're interested, I mean, they're all, to be clear, they're also there if you're not interested. You simply don't have that kind of sway that will get them taken down. If you want the details taken down off the BBC Radio 4 Extra website, then the best advice I can give you is to apply to become the Director General of the BBC, and then you will have that kind of sway. Details of how to apply to become the Director General of the BBC, and that is genuinely up for grabs, are on the BBC Jobs website if you're interested. They're also there if you're not interested. You simply don't have the kind of sway that will get them taken down. If you want the details taken... Oh, never mind. This is News Jack.
BBC Radio 4 Extra.
BBC Radio 4 Extra.
BBC Radio 4 Extra. BBC Radio 4 Extra. BBC Radio 4 Extra. BBC Radio 4 Extra.